Hello and welcome to the Air and Space Live Chat. I'm Marty Kelsey, one of the hosts of STEM in 30, an Emmy-nominated TV show for middle school students produced by the National Air and Space Museum. If you're tuning in today, hopefully you want to talk about stealth because that's our topic. A week ago, we released an entire episode about the science of stealth. You can check that out on the STEM in 30 Facebook page. And we want you to ask questions today all about stealth. We have a guest who is the commander of the F-35 demonstration team, as well as someone that flies the B-2 from Whiteman Air Force Base. Now, for those of you that don't know, Whiteman Air Force Base is located only about 55 miles from Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City. Before I moved to Washington, D.C., I was a teacher in Kansas City, as well as a camera operator for the Kansas City Royals. And as you can see here, I got a chance to see the stealth bomber in action fly over a playoff game in 2014. It is absolutely amazing to see these planes in action. If you've seen either the Stealth or the F-35 at an air show or fly over a sporting event, let us know about it down in the comments section. We'd love to know. We also want to know where you're watching from today. We'll give some shout outs throughout the show. And most importantly, let us know what questions you have. It's now my great honor to introduce our guests. We have Captain Kristen Bayo-Wolf, the commander of the F-35 Lightning II demonstration team in Hill Air Force Base, Utah, as well as Lieutenant Colonel Tim Sutton, the deputy commander of the 509th Operations Group at Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, as well as a B-2 instructor pilot. Thank you both for joining us today. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's great to be here.
All right, so I want to get started just by giving our viewers a little background on what it is that you currently fly and what your mission is. So, Captain Wolf, let's start with you.
Sure. So I currently fly the F-35A model out at Hill Air Force Base, Utah. I took over commander and pilot of the demonstration team last season. So our job is to go around to air shows, about 20 each year, and perform for the public and get people excited about aviation.
Awesome. Colonel Sutton, how about you?
So I fly the B-2 stealth bomber at Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, as you mentioned. There's only 20 B-2s in the entire world, and we fly them all here from Missouri, and we can fly all the way around the world to hit a target and then come back. I got here about almost 10 years ago now, and before that I flew F-15Cs, and yeah, that's my background.
Awesome. Well, we've got folks watching from Texas and Florida, Ukraine's tuning in. We've got a 6th grade science class in Stuart, Florida, as well as homeschoolers in Bowling Green, Kentucky, all tuning in today. Thank you all so much. Let me know where you're watching from and submit those questions down in the comments section. All right, so Colonel Sutton, let's start with you on this first question that's come in. What does it mean to be stealth?
Stealth is invisible. Now, the thing is with the B-2, you can obviously see it. You can tell your friends that we have an invisible cloaking device button that makes us turn invisible, but that's not actually true. We're invisible to radar. I think you saw that in the YouTube video that the Smithsonian Institute put out, that when a radar sends out waves to bounce off the aircraft, and then it shows up on a scope where they can, air traffic controllers can see you, which happens all the time when you fly airplanes in and out of, say, the airport. When those radar waves bounce off the B-2, it doesn't come back to the radar dish, so the people watching the radar can't see it on their scopes. So it means we're invisible to radar. And then we have other things that make us a little less detectable as well, such as being extra quiet and hard to see.
All right, Captain Wolf, does the F-35 have stealth capabilities as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And just like the Colonel was talking about, there's a lot of different realms on which you want to be stealthy. Either, it's the visual realm, it's the audible realm, but primarily the radar realm. So our stealth is a little bit different because we're trying to be a maneuverable fighter jet that carries a variety of weapons as well. So the reason why we're stealthy is you're trying to be optimized against a certain band of radar to get in farther, closer to drop your weapons before anybody hopefully knows you're there. So absolutely, it's one of the stealth fighters out there in addition to the F-22.
Awesome. All right, well, we've got a ton of questions coming in. We've got folks watching from Canada, the Netherlands, North Carolina, South Carolina, Kansas, Missouri, New Mexico, Virginia, Washington, D.C., and Louisiana, as well as a homeschooling group from Bishop, Georgia. Thank you all for tuning in, and let us know where you're watching from and what questions you have about stealth. Our next question, we've got a lot of folks asking about air shows. Captain Wolf, what's it like to fly in an air show?
It's phenomenal. It's, last year was a little bit of a different year for us. We had to be flexible with COVID and, flexible for going to air shows that were actually, adapting to the COVID environment, i.e. having drive-in theater kind of style air shows. We actually made it out to Stewart, Florida last year. So a shout out to those guys who are watching. But it's just awesome. It's really good to take the airplane, away from your current training environment where we operate every single day in Utah. Take that to like either a civilian base or some people that have never even seen this airplane fly. To be able to show off what this airplane can do for about 15 minutes is really awesome, to get out of that airplane and then to go talk to those people, engage with them. You'll have people that barely even know what a fighter jet is, people that are just aviation enthusiasts. And so to see their reaction to that airplane flying and doing all the maneuvers that we do is really empowering for us as a team.
Colonel Sutton, you've done some flyovers over sporting events. What's that like?
I absolutely love doing events like air shows and flyovers because I get to bring the B-2 to you out there and put a smile on your face, hopefully, to get to see it. With the flyovers, there's 50, 60,000 people in the stands and you're flying 10 miles out and you have to be right on time. So we have timed exactly how long the singer is going to take to sing the national anthem. And the only slop we have in that time is if they hold out the word brave for a long time. And of course, in the B-2, we're not quite as fancy in how we can maneuver. We can't do loop-to-loops and turn quite as hard as the F-35. So we have to be really careful on how we time our turns coming up into the airship to the flybys.
And I will tell you, having filmed several flyovers over Kauffman Stadium, it's always amazing because when that note hits, here comes the plane, and it's always amazing to also see the ground crew. Can you all both talk about the support teams that it takes to allow you to do your jobs? Captain Wolf, we'll start with you.
Sure. And so since I'm on the demo team, it's a little bit different than what we would take as a maintenance support group to, say, a red flag exercise or something like that. And that's obviously a huge contingent of people, but as in an air show environment, we try to keep our footprint relatively small. But we bring people from a variety of different career fields that are able to either maintain the jet. So we have about 6 maintainers we take on the road at any given time. One of those is the narrator that you'll hear on comms during the air show. One of those is playing the music and coordinating all those to my maneuvers. And then we bring, 4 other maintainers, either avionics specialists, weapons specialists, or just generic crew chiefs. And their job is basically to do a ground recovery and launch, to send the aircraft out safely, prepare it, for departure, and then also recover the jet and make sure it's safe to fly the whole weekend for the air show. It's a huge job for them. But in addition to all that, they also, interact with the crowd because they're also trying to recruit. We're not all about, making pilots. We need people in every single career field. So they're out there integrating with the crowd, selling swag, giving out stickers and doing all that stuff. And that's just from the maintainer side. But we also take an aircrew flight equipment technician to every air show who maintains all the life support gear I wear in addition to the helmet to make sure that's safe. And we also take public affairs individuals because it's important to capture all of the awesome stuff that we're doing both in photo and video, put that out on social media, people that aren't able to go to the air show, just to interact with everybody and all our fans.
And for our viewers, you'll be seeing a lot of the pictures that we've gotten from the Air Force today. Y'all's photographers need raises. There are some absolutely stunning images that we'll be seeing throughout the day. Colonel Sutton, tell us about the support team for the B-2.
Okay, well, first of all, just let you guys all know, my goal today is to make you all go, I want to be a B-2 stealth bomber pilot. All right, hopefully everybody out there wants to be a pilot. Who wouldn't want to be? But not everybody wants to be. Some people are scared of heights. By the way, I'm a little scared of heights, right? I don't like being on the edge of a cliff. But as long as I'm strapped in out of my parachute, I'm good. And if you don't like heights or you're not really into airplanes or that path just doesn't take you there because you can't always pick your path, there's over 1,000 people here at Whiteman Air Force Base that do maintenance on the B-2, that just maintain it, that change the wheels, that put gas in it. There's over 500 security forces or policemen here that carry guns and protect it. There's over 500 people here who work on logistics and the business side of making sure we have parts for the airplane. And when you put them all together, I truly am just one little piece of the puzzle. It's just my job to go inside and fly the thing. But all of us obviously are entirely essential, and there's jobs for everybody who like to do any type of thing out there.
All right, we've got a bunch of questions coming in. Keep those questions rolling in. We've got Milan, Italy. Ireland, Indonesia, all tuning in, as well as Oregon, California, Idaho, Pennsylvania, Utah, and Maine. We've also got homeschoolers from Solana County, Michigan, as well as some other homeschoolers from Wisconsin. Thank you all for tuning in. And we've got a question, and I think this will go for both of you. This is from Bryce, and he wants to know, how far can the Stealth fly before needing to refuel?
Sure, I'll answer that for the F-35. We carry about 17,500 pounds of gas internal. And so traditionally, if we're going to go cross country to an air show or whatnot, depending on the winds, so if there's a strong headwind or a strong tailwind, that's going to vary our distance greatly. But we can get up to about 1,250 miles comfortably in a no-wind situation. And that's just getting from here to there. But for example, yesterday I flew a 2.5-hour mission and we refueled with 2 tankers from the Utah Guard. And so as long as you've got tankers airborne to give you gas, you can stay airborne as long as the pilot can stay awake.
And Colonel Sutton, you all fly real short missions. Do you have to refuel?
Whereas Bayo and her F-35 can do a lot more maneuvers and loop-de-loops than I can the B-2, the B-2 has what we call legs. So when you talk about how much gas and how far you can go, you talk about what kind of legs do you have. And we have really big legs. So we carry 160,000 pounds of gas, that will get us about 6,000 miles or so without air refueling. Now, if we air refuel, it's almost limitless. The longest flight I ever had was 29 hours from Diego Garcia, an island in the Indian Ocean. Look at that on your globe when we're done here. It's on the other side of the world, and we actually took the route that took us the long way around the world, 13 time zones. So it was a 29-hour sortie, and that took 3 air refuelings. The longest sortie ever was 44 hours. A 44-hour sortie. That's like getting in the airplane tonight, and all your friends go to bed, get up, have breakfast, go to school the next day, go to bed, get up, have breakfast, go to school the next day, and then you land. So it was the longest sortie ever, 44 hours.
Wow, that is absolutely amazing. We've got a bunch of folks asking, what made you all want to be pilots? Captain Wolf, we'll start with you.
We were chatting about this prior. You'll find the gamut of people that this wide span of, particularly fighter pilots, from those that knew from they're 3 years old and were at an air show that they want to be a fighter pilot, to probably all the way to the other end of the spectrum, which is kind of like myself. I grew up in a military family. My dad was a pilot as well in the Air Force. So that was always familiar to me. I was always seeing airplanes flying around, being around military bases. But honestly, didn't really consider it a career for myself until I was about halfway through college. Didn't want to pursue an engineering career forever, but I finished the degree and I joined ROTC, and it was from there that I started to investigate kind of career options that existed in the Air Force and what was exciting to me. And from there, I just kind of walked into, hey, a pilot sounds really awesome. Am I qualified? Do I meet the requirements to be able to do that? And decided to compete to be a pilot. So really just kind of got interested in being in the military because I was used to that lifestyle. Knew the Air Force was probably the best fit for me, just my lifestyle. And then from there, thought about, aviation is everything the Air Force is about is aviation. So to be a pilot in the Air Force was kind of the pinnacle of what I wanted to try to shoot for.
Colonel Sutton, how about you?
Yeah, so I didn't have a military background, and I had a lot of close friends that loved airplanes from a young age. And maybe in high school, they got their private license, which you can do. In my case, I also, I'll be honest, I thought it would be really cool. And that's why I did it. I thought it'd be super cool to go fast, go upside down and shoot things. So I joined to be a fighter pilot, and I was fortunate enough to be able to do that. And then I transitioned to the B-2. Awesome.
We've got a question that's come in for Captain Wolf. Does the F-35 have onboard weather radar?
It does. It's probably not as Gucci as you'll see on some other aircraft, maybe even the B-2 or, some other systems out there. But we use the radar that's in the nose cone of the jet. And essentially that radar can see basically rain density. So precipitation is all it's seeing. It's not really seeing clouds or whatnot. But it will give us a small picture of the weather radar, and we can avoid thunderstorms. And it looks like the exact same Doppler radar that you see kind of on the weather channel, as far as shades of, blue is maybe light rain, all the way up to pink is heavy rain that you want to avoid. And bringing that all around into stealth, it's actually pretty important for us not to fly through rain and thunderstorms. One, we're flying a giant computer of a system that is the F-35. This happens to look like a fighter jet, right? All the sensors are internal to the aircraft, but all the computing and software is what makes this airplane 5th gen and so high in technology. So for us to get struck by lightning, it's not really a good thing for a big computer to get struck by lightning. So we definitely try to avoid that. And then also, our jet is covered in what's called RAM, so radar absorbing material. And so we try to protect that as much as possible. So obviously, if you're flying 350, 400, 500 ground speed, then you don't want to be driving through really dense rain, because you're going to start to eat away at that RAM and cause a lot more issues for our low observable maintainers to have to fix once you get on the ground. So a great question.
Colonel Sutton, are there weather restrictions for flying the B-2?
Yeah, same. Pretty much we're about the same as the F-35. We have a weather radar that will show us where thunderstorms are, and we try to stay away from thunderstorms as much as we can. And she alluded to the skin of the airplane. As you've learned, and you'll probably talk about more here today, stealth is primarily driven by the shape of your airplane, but they have a special paint they put on the airplane that helps with stealth as well. So if we get struck by lightning, then they got to repaint the aircraft, and that can take a while.
All right, we've got folks tuning in from Minnesota, Illinois, North Dakota, where my dad was actually stationed in the Air Force, Michigan, Texas, Moody Field Air Force Base, New Jersey, Alabama, Greece, England, and Bulgaria, as well as homeschooling groups from Mobile, Alabama, and Miss Waller's classroom. Thank you all for tuning in, and let us know what questions you have down in the comments section. Let's see, we've got more questions coming in about, Colonel Sutton, we'll ask you this one. How big is the Stealth compared to other military aircraft?
Okay, the B-2 is about 75 feet long and about 170 feet wide. So there's a good picture there that you have with some, is that F-35s there? It's kind of a small picture for me. So the B-2 is about as wide as a B-52 or a jumbo jet that you'd see at the airport. However, it's only about as long as a fighter, like the F-15 or the F-22. So in order to achieve its stealth, it's very short but very wide.
Awesome. And the F-35 is similar in size to like an F-16, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's about 35 feet wide and about 43 feet long. So about the same width as a F-16, but just a little bit different shape to, again, accommodate for that stealth that he was talking about.
Okay, we've got a question that's come in. Somebody wants to know about the physical requirements to be able to fly your airplanes. Colonel Sutton, let's start with you.
Oh, you have to be the Hulk, like me. No. You do need to be in shape, because it's just, especially the five fighters, be able to tell you more about that. But in general, you just have to be able to withstand a tough environment, lots of noise and vibrations. And then there are some height restrictions, and you have to be able to see reasonably well, but you can wear glasses and contacts, so don't worry about it if you wear glasses. I don't know, Beo, do you have any things to pile on there or talk about pulling G's?
Yeah, sure. So we don't have any special, physical fitness test requirements. We actually just meet the standard Air Force requirements as far as that is concerned. But just like the Colonel was talking about, to be able to withstand either long hours or high Gs in any aircraft, you have to be in reasonable physical fitness shape just to endure all that over a long time span. So for fighters, we typically try to stay in shape. Everyone has their own personal regimen, so there's not any specific requirements for that. Because when you are pulling those G forces, and then now everything on your body weighs up to 9 times the force of gravity. So pretty big deal when, the 5-pound helmet on your head, plus your head weighs, about 45, 60 pounds under the force of 9 Gs. You got to be able to withstand that and, be able to fight after that as well. So as far as height and vision requirements, I think they're still at 2070 for your vision requirements, but LASIK and PRK are definitely options as well to look into. And then they actually just took away the height restrictions for pilots recently to where, if you're in the normal span, then you can be, auto meet those requirements. But if you're any shorter or any taller, then you can go basically do sort of individual testing in different cockpits of aircraft to see what you're eligible to fly, which is really cool that they took that away.
Awesome. Well, Daniel, who is a homeschooler, wants to know, have either of you ever wanted to become astronauts?
I just like to pipe in that there have been more people in outer space than have flown the B-2. So I would rather fly the B-2 because that's way cooler and fewer people have done it.
Nice. Captain Wolf, how about you?
Yeah, that's a great answer. No, not really. The suit and being claustrophobic and not being able to move much doesn't really appeal to me, and eating all the dry food and stuff. It'd be cool, like once in a lifetime experience, but not as a career. Doesn't really appeal to me.
All right, Colonel Sutton, how do the pilots stay awake for such long missions?
Okay, so 44-hour mission, we talked about that. That's like going on vacation practically, but you're in your tiny little cockpit. What we do is you got to prepare, you got to sleep well ahead of time, take a nap if you can before you take off. And then in the jet, some of it is just tough it out, but then also we'll try to take a nap. There's just barely enough space behind the seats to lay down. And if I lay down, my head will hit one side and my feet will touch the other. The trick is, which way do you want to lay? Because on one side, you have a heat vent that'll hit you in the head. But if you lay the other way, your head's near the toilet, and you might watch out for a little bit of blue fluid leaking out. So we'll try to grab a nap, maybe 1 or 2 hour-long naps just to help improve your awareness a little bit. But then also the doctors will give us special pills called Go pills, and those help you stay awake. It's like caffeine, but even more so to help you stay awake.
Let's see, Captain Wolf, somebody wants to know what happens if one of the demo pilots gets sick or doesn't feel good on the day of an air show?
Yeah, great question. So just for everybody that doesn't know, there's only one demo pilot at a time, typically for about 2 seasons for each team. So, one F-22, one F-35, one A-10, and one Viper pilot. So we do try to, keep care of ourselves, take all our vitamins and stuff so that doesn't happen. And luckily, we've all been healthy this season. But, there has been, I think in Stanford, I wasn't feeling well just with a sinus cold, and you either tough through it or, the air show doesn't happen. So that's, super important to make sure that you're on the top of your game and not getting sick.
Awesome. And this question I can throw to both of you because I have no idea what the answer. Do other countries have similar stealth capabilities in aircraft?
Bailey, you want to take that one?
Sure. So, I would say that we're kind of at the front of the technology in making fifth-gen aircraft that are very sustainable and actually going out there and doing the mission on a regular basis. So other aircraft we call near-peer threats are trying to catch up and trying to make aircraft as well to be able to compete with us. I wouldn't say that they're at our level yet just because we've been doing this for so many years. So we kind of have that leg up, and we've learned something with every generation of aircraft that we've built as far as, the shape of the aircraft, optimizing it for a certain radar band, optimizing the radar absorbing material. So all of that, we are, I think decades ahead of some of our peers. So yes, they are working on this technology as well, but maybe not as far as advanced as we are.
All right, keep those questions coming in and let us know where you're watching from, both down in the comments section. We have a teacher at the Air Zoo in Kalamazoo, Michigan, who wants to know, they have an SR-71 and an F-117. How do those planes compare to either of the planes that you all are flying? Colonel Sutton, how about you?
I would say they are very, very different. So the SR-71 was super duper fast and went super high. It was not very maneuverable, and it did not carry any bombs. The F-117, we called that our stealth fighter, and it was our first formal stealth aircraft. However, it wasn't really a fighter. It didn't go upside down, and it didn't shoot guns or missiles. It only dropped bombs, and it could only drop 2 bombs. So now that we have the B-2 and the F-35, they're obviously a totally different category of aircraft, where the B-2 is a long-range strategic bomber that carries lots of bombs and can fly a long ways. And the F-35, of course, a super maneuverable fighter capable of air-to-air and air-to-ground engagements. Okay.
Captain Wolf, somebody wants to know how many loops can you make and how do you not get dizzy?
I kind of relate it to like driving your own car. If you're in the front seat of your car driving it, you're not going to get sick. You're not really going to get dizzy. Whereas somebody in the passenger seat or the back seat is probably puking their guts out if you're doing wheelies and all this crazy stuff, drifting the jet or the car around. So it's pretty natural to be flying it yourself because you're at the controls of the stick and throttle. How many loops can we do? So in the air show, we do a series of 3 aileron rolls at a time. As far as loops, we typically keep it to 1 loop at a time because of the altitude that it takes to complete that loop. If we were going to do more than 1 loop, then we'd be so high up doing multiple loops downhill that you probably wouldn't be able to see us. But great question.
Okay. Colonel Sutton, somebody wants to know about the max altitudes and speeds for the B-2.
Max altitudes and speeds. Somebody always wants to know that question, and we don't think about it too long. A little higher is better often. Now we fly, just to give you an idea, about as high as an airliner. So whatever the airliners are flying, that's about where we fly. And then as far as speeds, we're not very fast. We're actually slower than an airliner. And part of that is because in order to make it stealthy by giving it a unique shape that looks quite a bit different than other airplanes, the aerodynamics, how it handles and how it turns and how it flies, made it such that it couldn't go too fast without becoming unstable.
All right, we've got another question about, and Captain Wolf, we'll throw this one to you. How does the F-35 compare in maneuverability to like the F-16?
Yeah, I would just say it's different. Obviously, if you look at the two aircraft side by side, they are about the same length and width as each other. But the F-16 is considerably lighter than the F-35, has a little bit smaller engine, versus the F-35 was designed to have that stealthy shape, which is going to take away some of the maneuverability of it. However, they both have a flight control system, a fly-by-wire system, if you will. The F-35s is, again, a generation newer and more advanced, which is pretty cool because we do a lot of high angle of attack or alpha maneuvering, particularly in dogfighting. So something that we show off in the air show, we both have a slow speed maneuver that both the F-16 and F-35 show off. But if we were able to show you some of the high angle maneuvering as well in the air show, you're going to see us do loops to where we're going upwards of 50 alpha. So that's the differential between the nose of the aircraft and your actual flight path, and all of that is due to the flight control system that we have on the airplane. I.e., I tell the airplane I want maximum nose rate, and that's all I want to be able to do that loop. It is going to decide based on the airspeed, the altitude, the environment the airplane's flying in, what combination of flight controls behind me to deflect to make that loop happen most effectively. So that can be a different combination of flight controls. If I'm slow speed or high speed, I'm not really flying that traditional stick and rudder, that you would think of in general aviation. The Viper is similar, but the flight control systems in the F-35 are, again, a generation newer, so a little bit different.
And it sounds from both of you like the computer is absolutely vital. What happens if something happens to that computer? Colonel Sutton?
So for the B-2, we have over 100 computers in the B-2, all doing different things and calculating different things. Now, if we lose some of them, in almost every case, the B-2 is just fine, except for the flight control computer. That is the one computer that actually controls the surfaces that move to make us fly. We have 4 flight control computers. So we have, if one dies, we have another backup. If that one dies, we have another backup. If that one dies, we have another backup. So if we lose all 4 flight control computers, unfortunately, we're going to have to eject. But we have pretty good redundancy, so we should be safe.
Awesome. Well, we've got somebody from New Jersey. Apparently, we are today's 5th grade social studies virtual lesson. So thanks for tuning in and watching, and let us know what questions you have. And then let's see, we've got another question that's come in. Does the B-2 have any defensive tools other than stealth?
The B-2, some people may use the term one-trick pony. We rely on our stealth. And so we don't have, for example, chaff that other aircraft have, which is little pieces of metal that you drop out the back of your airplane. So when the radar comes up, it bounces off those shards of metal instead of just your airplane, and it's hard for them to find you. So the B-2, unfortunately, just relies on our stealth, and then we also rely on our other airframes and our brothers and sisters in the Air Force, such as BAO and the F-35, to help protect us as well.
All right, we've got another question that's come in that I thought was really interesting. Do you all have any secondary jobs that you do with the Air Force other than just preparing to fly and flying, or do you have other roles that you have to fill?
I'll take that one. Yeah, traditionally, each pilot is going to have a different job. And it's, think of it as just kind of like a company. Running a company, we are typically sustained by the pilots, as well as a crew of enlisted people as well. So letting enlisted people do some of the back shop work as far as maintaining, our flight records, making sure our hours are up to date, all of our currencies, ground currencies and air currencies are good to go. We have an intel shop as well that works back in the vault. But primarily, if you think about scheduling, training, our standardization evaluation shop, what have you, every pilot has a different job, whether it's flight commander, DO, or squadron commander. And then we also have different qualifications. So right now I'm an instructor pilot in the 34th. So if I'm not doing demo things, practicing at Hill or going to air shows, then I'm back training with my local squadron, instructing either new pilots or experienced pilots to make that next qualification or to be combat mission ready. So an instructor pilot takes a decent bit of time as you're trying to study to get ready or debriefing somebody that's upgrading.
Colonel Sutton, how about you? Yes, same. We all have additional duties, as we call them, or other jobs. And this was kind of hard because you're trying to do a full-time job managing whatever you were put in charge of, as well as being a pilot. So I had a job where I was in charge of scheduling when the flights were going to happen. I had another job where I was in charge of the simulators. And if something changed on the B2, we had to make sure we put that change into the simulator as well, so it matched the B2.
All right, we've got a really interesting question that's come in. And Captain Wolf, we'll start with you on this. Is there a historic aircraft that you would like to fly?
Ooh, yeah, probably a couple. So I get the chance in air shows to fly with the Heritage Flight Foundation, which is a bunch of warbirds. So I get the chance to fly alongside those guys, as well as I got a backseat P-51 ride just to kind of experience, what those warbird pilots are doing. So, I mean, any of those warbirds would be a phenomenal experience to get to fly in. But I'd want to be in those warbirds, and go actually take them into combat and see what those pilots were experiencing. Because, right now you can talk to a couple of them that are still alive and we're still there. You can read a lot of books, watch some movies. But just to be able to fly that aircraft into combat and see how different it was than what we're doing now, especially in the stealth realm, that'd be really awesome to see.
Colonel Sutton, how about you? What do you want to fly around in?
Boy, it's hard to pick just once. I agree. Some of the World War II planes and a little later would be so fun to see how they handle. A couple that I come to mind is the F-111, because it flew super low and super fast while being low, so you could see the mountains going by you. Another one I'll mention that's in the Air Force Museum is the XB-70. I think they only made 2 or 3. I'm not good on the statistics for that, but it was a massive airplane with 6 massive engines on the back, and it was designed to be a long-range, supersonic, so it went faster than the speed of sound, bomber. It was supposed to go all the way around the world and bomb the Soviet Union if we needed to in that case, and it was designed to beat some of the fighters that we thought they were developing.
All right, well, we've got a lot of folks tuning in. We've got, let's see, South Africa, Denmark, Bulgaria, England, Greece, Colorado, Montana, and Alabama, as well as homeschoolers from Bunkerville, Nevada, as well as a homeschool group near Hill Air Force Base. So thank you all for tuning in. We've got a few minutes left. Let us know what questions you have down in the comments section. Colonel Sutton, the next question's for you. You've got these long missions. What happens if you get hungry?
Oh, yeah. I just pack as much food as you can. So I pack a regular old lunch. Sometimes I'll pack a brownie or some cookies to pick me up and cheer me up.
Captain Wolf, can you talk a little bit about the flight suit that you wear? Is it a pressure suit? What does it look like when you get into the airplane?
Yeah, our gear is F-35 specific, but it's also very similar to legacy fighter pilot equipment. So we wear a standard G suit. It's a full coverage G suit, meaning it covers everywhere from all the way down to your abdomen, all the way down to your ankles, and that's going to be everything you've seen on fighter pilots for years and years. For the jacket that we wear, that's a little bit non-standard as far as it's got a lot of it's a full sleeve jacket. A lot of loops and lanyards there where we can strap on a lot of different equipment in case we were to eject. And that equipment varies based on whether we're in, just a training sortie out in Utah, fly over the Salt Lake, or whether we're going into bad guy land and we need something like a 9mm, holster on us. So we can configure that in a variety of different ways to make us more survivable if we were to eject out of the airplane. It also has, like you see there, our oxygen mask attached to it because we breathe, supplemental oxygen depending on how high we're flying. And then that configuration you see there doesn't have the life preserving units attached to it. But we can also strap on, a horseshoe kind of life jacket that will auto-inflate if we were to eject and land in water, the Salt Lake or an ocean or what have you. And then finally, everybody's favorite piece is the F-35 helmet. So it's custom fit and built for each pilot. It's carbon fiber to keep it a little bit lightweight, but it's still about 5 pounds. And then you can see it on the aircraft there. We don't have a traditional HUD or heads-up display like legacy airframes. We have all that information displayed on the visor in front of us. So projectors in the helmet, all the pitch angle, bank angle, targeting data, airspeed, altitude is all just right there in front of our eyes, which is pretty useful in a targeting scenario where you're trying to look out and get a visual on an enemy aircraft, or look out and maintain SA on air surface targets as you're going to bomb.
Colonel Sutton, how about you?
Very similar. We don't have the same helmet as she does, and we don't wear the G suit because we don't go beside them. But all the same things. These flight suits are actually made of a material called Nomex, which helps protect us from fire. And then just a note, when you have all this stuff on, when you actually are going to combat, and you have to wear your survival vest that has a gun and a giant radio and some other survival equipment like matches. And then you have your life preserver around your neck, not inflated, but it still takes up a good amount of space. It's an awful lot of stuff, and it's pretty cumbersome getting into the jet.
All right, we've got a 16-year-old wants to know what's the biggest adrenaline rush, and he wants to fly the F-117 Nighthawk. So what's the biggest rush for you, Captain Wolf?
Oh man, honestly, my current job right now is just taxiing out and taxiing back in front of a crowd, either right before you perform an air show or right after you perform the air show, and just knowing that you like put on a good show for the crowd and you see how stoked they are to have seen that airplane fly. That's a big adrenaline rush. You know, it's not. A lot of the maneuvers are pretty benign for us as far as, you feel the G's, you don't really hear much because you've got earplugs in and it's pretty quiet inside the airplane. You're just thinking about making the air show perfect. But once you get on the ground, you kind of see that, hey, you were performing for, thousands of people down there. So that's pretty cool for me.
Colonel Sutton?
Yeah, one of the best adrenaline rushes you get in the B-2 is probably your very first flight. And it's just sinking in. You've spent months studying and doing simulators, and you finally walk out to that airplane. You're like, whoa, look at this. It's just like something on the Discovery Channel. We're on STEM in 30, and I'm going to get to do it. And then you take off, and you're airborne in the B-2, and you look out, and you look down that wing of this thing that looks like a spaceship, and you're like, I'm doing it. That's just amazing.
That is absolutely awesome. And there are some of those amazing pictures that we were talking about earlier. Isaiah wants to know what your call signs are, and I might follow that up with, how important are the call signs?
Well, call signs are extremely important because they were, a fighter pilot tradition for years and years and decades. But it's kind of, a sense of a family. That's your first fighter squadron typically gives you a name. And that's the name you'll be known by pretty much forever. So most people don't even know each other's first names in the squadron. You just know each other by their call sign. And it's a ceremony that's different for every squadron that you're going to go to. They typically wait a couple months to get, gather some stories about you, get to know you before they actually give you your first fighter pilot call sign. I should typically say it depends on a variety of different things on what your call sign is going to be. Some of it's your last name, like mine. So my last name is Wolf. So Beowulf is considered, a natural, what we call it. So Beo is my call sign. They typically try to throw some stories behind it, either something funny you've done, something dumb, either in or out of the airplane. Just something to kind of give you some ownership to your name. There's a lot of different call signs out there and stories behind them, which is pretty cool.
Nice. Colonel Sutton, what's your call sign?
My call sign is Stan, S-T-A-N. So that could be a little bit confusing because it's another guy's name. So you say, hey, I'm Stan. They go, oh, what's your call sign? And that was it. But Stan stands for solid tone at night, because back when I flew the F-15 and we pulled G's, pull back on the stick and you're turning and you're getting squished down in your seat, there's a beeper in the F-15 that tells you when you're close to the maximum number of G's you can pull in the F-15 without breaking it. And when you get really close to that maximum, you get a solid tone. It goes beep. And we were doing that at night when most people just want to be safe and get down on the ground. And so we had a story where we were practicing some advanced tactics and pulling a lot of G's at night. So they called me solid tone at night.
Nice. And it was interesting. Neither one of our guests today had met each other before today's program, and they introduced themselves with their call signs, which I thought was pretty cool. We've got just one more question, time for one more. And Captain Wolf, I'll start with you on this. What do you recommend for a kid that wants to be a part of the Air Force?
Great question. So I always say for any kid is, study as much as you can and research as much as you can on all the career options that exist, whether it's aviation, the military, aviation, the civilian world, and just figure out, so there's so many avenues, especially on the internet these days, to learn and figure out the right path for yourself, whether it's getting on, the Air Force Aim High app, whether it's going online to all the Facebook groups, and then start getting abreast of all those ways you can commission into the Air Force. So whether it's ROTC, OTS, or going to the Air Force Academy, all those are great options, but ones can probably get a fit, what you want to do in your lifestyle a little bit better. So making that right decision there. And then lastly, I always say, pick a study that you are going to do well at. So I picked chemical engineering because I love math and science. We have such a wide variety of pilots in the Air Force that are every single background of bachelor's. It could be business major, a turf management major, psychology major. We have all of those in the fighter pilot world. So you don't have to pick something that's just engineering or aerospace. Pick something that you're going to do well, you're going to enjoy, and get a good GPA at.
Awesome. Colonel Sutton?
Absolutely. Academics is the best, number one thing that differentiates the people that are selected to become pilots. So getting good grades. Another piece that you can really control, because when you try to say, I want to be if you're in ROTC in college or at the Air Force Academy, and you say, I want to be a pilot, they're gonna rack and stack, or they're gonna rank everybody and take the best ones. And one thing that you can actually control is physical fitness. Right, we're all gifted with different things, but everybody can get down and do push-ups every day, and that'll give you a good score as well. Another thing I'd say is, and this is at the risk of sounding a little cheesy, and I really don't like cheesy, but work on yourself as a person. Become somebody who is disciplined, who has self-control, who is eager to learn, is ambitious, all those things of who you are as a person, which comes after years of doing things that are disciplined and self-controlled and ambitious. Doing things that are disciplined, self-controlled, and ambitious will make you a person that is disciplined, self-controlled, and ambitious. And then it'll just start to happen then, because who you are will come through in everything you'll do, and then you'll get to where you want to be.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for joining us today. If you've watched today, if you get a chance to go out to an air show and see a B-2 fly over the F-35 team, make sure you let us know about it here at STEM in 30. We'd love to hear those stories and what you thought. We really appreciate your all's time today. I want to remind everybody watching that this video is available right now on Facebook. You can go back and watch it. It'll also be available on YouTube here in the next day or so. And we want to remind everybody to check out the latest episode of STEM in 30, all about stealth. It features Chris Kratt, one of the Kratt brothers, a look at the National Museum of the United States Air Force in Dayton, Ohio, as well as the CIA Museum. And it has some hands-on demos that you can try at home. And we hope that you tune in next week when we'll be looking at supersonic flight. We'll be talking with NASA's X-59 supersonic X-plane. And we've got some really great guests on there. And if you like this show, be sure to follow STEM in 30 on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you all so much for tuning in today and asking such great questions. Hope you have a great rest of the day.